So you're probably curious about these mystery drones, right? Good. So are we. It
Ah.
seems like everyone's talking about them. And we've been digging in.
Oh, yeah.
We've got news articles, official statements, even some eyewitness accounts. And
Wow.
it's kind of crazy how widespread this is. It's not just one or two sightings.
No.
It's multiple states. I mean, we're talking
Yeah.
sightings overseas even, and
Right.
no one really seems to know what's going on, who's behind it.
Yeah, and some people are describing these drones as huge EE,
I know.
way bigger than your typical, like,
Like your kid's toy, yeah.
kids, yeah, hobbyist drone.
Yeah, yeah. So let's try to make sense of all this.
Yeah, let's dive in.
So one thing I found fascinating was the timeline of this.
Right.
Like when did this all start and where?
Well, the first reports that we're seeing pop up are in New Jersey
Okay.
around mid-November. Specifically November 18th, the police acknowledged that officers had seen, quote, drone activity the night before. And then it just kind of spreads from there, like a ripple effect,
Yeah.
New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Virginia, all within a matter of weeks.
Wow. So it's like it started in one place and just fanned out?
Yeah. And it's not just random airspace either.
What do you mean?
They're appearing near some pretty sensitive spots, like military bases,
Oh, wow.
like Piccadilly Arsenal and the Naval Weapons Station Earl. We're talking about nuclear power plants, airports.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, even Trump's golf course in Bedminster.
Okay, so we're not talking about some kids just like messing around in the park.
Right.
This is serious stuff.
Yeah. It seems like,
Like strategic locations almost?
yeah, potentially strategic, yeah.
Hmm. What about the descriptions of these drones? Because I know the articles mention sizes that just seem, I don't know, impossible for normal drones.
Yeah, exactly. Some of these reports are describing drones, the size of bicycles, even small cars.
Really?
Yeah, which is far beyond what's commercially available.
Yeah.
At least, to the public.
Right, right.
And even the flight times. I mean, some witnesses are saying these things are airborne for up to 6 hours.
6 hours? That's
That's
crazy.
a long time, yeah.
I mean, how is that even possible? Like typical drone batteries,
Yeah.
they don't last that long, right?
No, they don't. No. This is pointing to a level of technology that's raising eyebrows, even among, people who follow drone development closely.
Wow. Okay. So we've got the U.S., but you mentioned sightings in the U.K. and Germany too,
Yeah.
and like specifically near U.S. air bases.
That's right. Yeah, and the dates are aligning really closely with the U.S. sightings. In the UK, the reports start coming in around November 20th. So is this like a coordinated effort?
Oh, I see.
Is it copycats inspired by what they're seeing in the news?
No.
Or are we talking about multiple unconnected things all happening at the same time? I mean, it's hard to say. But the fact that it has this global aspect to it, it just adds another
Dimension.
another layer to this whole thing.
It makes it feel even bigger than I thought initially. you know?
Yeah.
And I know there was something about airports having to actually shut down runways because of this.
Yeah.
That's not a small thing.
No, it shows this is having a real world impact, whatever the intent is. I mean, think about Stewart International.
Oh.
It's not just a commercial airport. It's also, close to a New York Air National Guard base.
Oh, wow.
That closure, it throws a wrench into a lot of operations, potentially costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it all stems from these mysterious drones.
Okay. So we've got unusual drones,
Right.
strategic locations, a global spread.
Yeah.
What's the official word on all this? Have they caught anyone, identified any culprits?
Well, that's where things get even more interesting. The official responses from the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, the Pentagon, they've been changing.
What do you mean by changing? It seemed like at first they were, I don't know, downplaying it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe brushing it off as misidentified planes or weather balloons or something.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. There was even a statement from the White House saying there was no threat to public safety. But as more and more sightings came in, and they
Yeah.
couldn't just dismiss everything,
Mm-hmm.
the tone shifted a bit. The FBI started an investigation. They started asking the public for any videos, photos, anything that could help.
Wow.
The FAA even issued temporary flight restrictions in certain areas.
So it's like they're acknowledging something's happening,
Uh-huh.
but they're not really saying what it is.
Right.
And I can only imagine how frustrating that must be for the people who are actually seeing these things firsthand.
Oh, absolutely. And lawmakers are starting to apply pressure, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're calling for more transparency, stricter drone regulations, greater authority to investigate.
Hmm.
Some are even saying we should just, shoot the drones down.
Shoot them down. That seems a little, uh, I don't know, extreme, maybe.
Well, it definitely reflects the level of concern that's out there, but it also raises some questions about, is that even legal? What about the danger of falling debris? It's not a simple solution.
Yeah.
And are we even equipped to do that? Our current, counter drone technology, it might not be as advanced as people think. Yeah, it's a complex issue, and,
Yeah.
and it kind of gets to the heart of what makes this whole situation so, I don't know, unsettling. We're dealing with a technology that's relatively new. It's evolving so rapidly, and we're still trying to figure out how to regulate it, how to defend against it, how to
Yeah.
even understand its full potential.
Yeah, it's not just about catching whoever's behind these drones.
Right.
It's about figuring out how we as a society deal with this new technology,
Right.
which is a big question.
Yeah.
A big conversation.
Yeah. It is. And these mystery drones are, in a way, they're forcing our hand. They're making us confront these questions maybe sooner than we might have otherwise.
Okay, so let's talk about the who for a second. You mentioned lawmakers are pointing fingers at China. What's the reasoning there?
Well, their concern stems from the fact that China has a known interest in gathering intelligence on U.S. military capabilities and infrastructure.
Right.
They've been investing heavily in drone technology, and there's a history there, right, of cyber espionage,
Mm.
intellectual property theft.
Uh-huh.
So it's not completely outlandish to consider them as a potential player in all this.
Okay, but is that just connecting dots based on, existing tensions, or is there actually evidence
Right.
linking these specific drones to China?
That's the tricky part. As of now, there's no, smoking gun. There's no direct link. It's more of a what if scenario
Right.
that some find more plausible than others.
Okay, so what about other countries? Or even like non-state actors, like terrorist groups. Could they be behind this?
It's possible, but it seems less likely. I mean, terrorist groups usually want to make a statement.
Yeah.
They want to cause damage, inflict fear, and these drones, so far, they haven't done any of that. They seem to be more focused on observation,
Right.
not destruction.
Okay, and the scale of this, the coordination, it seems beyond what, most criminal organizations could pull off, right?
Most likely, yeah. I mean, criminal groups, they might use drones for things like smuggling or surveillance,
Right.
but on a much smaller scale, this level of operation attracting this much attention, it just doesn't fit their usual MO.
Right. Okay, so we've got China as a maybe,
Yeah.
terrorists, kind of typical criminals, less likely.
Right.
What about that copycat theory? Could this all just be a bunch of folks inspired by the news, messing around with their drones?
It's a possibility, and it's definitely something investigators are looking into. That initial media coverage, it could have sparked a wave of copycat flights, especially among, tech enthusiasts or those seeking like a thrill.
Yeah, so instead of monkey see, monkey do, it's drone see, drone fly.
Exactly. But even if that's the case, it raises concerns about, how accessible this technology is, the potential for misuse. I mean, if a bunch of amateurs can cause this much disruption, it highlights a real security gap.
That's a good point. It shifts the focus from, like, a single culprit
Yeah.
to this more widespread issue
Yeah.
of how we manage this technology as it becomes more and more common.
Yeah.
But even if it's copycats, they're still targeting specific locations,
Yeah.
sometimes very sensitive ones.
Uh-huh.
How are they doing that?
Well, that's it.
I
That's what
thought-
makes this so perplexing. These drones are displaying a level of sophistication that just goes beyond your average, hobbyist. They're flying for hours. They're evading detection, operating at night. They're even flying in coordinated patterns. It suggests either, a very high degree of technical skill
Right.
or access to technology that's not, readily available to the public.
So even if the copycat theory is true, it's not exactly a comforting thought.
Right.
It means there are people out there outside of governments or official organizations who have the knowledge and the means to conduct these kinds of operations.
And that brings us back to the question of motive, right? Why are these drones doing this? What are they trying to achieve?
Okay, let's dive into that. What are some of the main theories about the purpose behind these flights?
Well, one possibility, given, the targets that they seem to be choosing, is intelligence gathering.
Hmm.
It could be surveillance, an
Mm.
attempt to map sensitive locations, test security measures, gather data on troop movements, critical infrastructure, things like that.
So espionage, but not necessarily on behalf of a foreign government.
Right, exactly. It could be a company, a private group, even an individual with their own agenda.
Hmm. So we have to consider like the full range potential motives here, from
Yeah.
like industrial espionage to personal vendettas even.
Yeah, we've seen drones used by all sorts of actors for surveillance.
Right.
A rival company trying to get a competitive edge, an activist group monitoring environmental damage, even private investigators working for individuals.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So what about those sightings near residential areas?
Uh,
Could that be surveillance too?
It's possible, but the motive there is even harder to pin down.
Right.
Is it someone with a, creepy obsession with their neighbors? Is it a private investigator working a case, or could it be something more, I don't know, sinister, like organized crime casing out potential
Okay,
targets?
so the purpose could be anything from like nosiness to something much darker.
Yeah.
And that uncertainty combined with the lack of clear answers from officials, it's got to be fueling a lot of the anxiety that people are feeling.
Absolutely. I mean, not knowing why these things are flying around, what they're capable of, who's controlling them,
Yeah.
it creates this sense of vulnerability.
Yeah.
This feeling that something is amiss and we're not in control.
It's like a constant like low-level hum of unease.
Exactly. And that unease, that sense of being watched, of not knowing what's going on,
Yeah.
that's a powerful psychological tool.
Whoa, are you saying these drones could be part of like a psychological operation?
Mm.
Like someone is deliberately trying to mess with our heads.
I'm not saying that's definitely the case, but it is a possibility worth considering. I mean, think about the effect these sightings are having, right?
Yeah.
Heightened anxiety, distrust of authorities, calls for extreme measures like, shooting down any drone in sight.
Right.
That kind of social disruption can be just as effective as any physical attack.
Okay, that's a pretty unsettling thought. So we've got espionage, surveillance, potential psychological operations.
Hmm.
Are there any other, I don't know, theories out there?
Right.
Maybe some that are a little less, I don't know, grounded in reality.
Of course, whenever you have a mystery like this, especially one involving, technology and the unknown, people's imaginations, they just run wild.
Ah.
And with these drones, we've seen a whole range of speculation, from the plausible to the downright bizarre.
Hit me with the craziest one you've heard.
Well, one theory, and I use that term loosely, is that these drones are actually extraterrestrial probes
Like
sent to observe us
aliens.
or gather data on our planet. Yes, some people believe that these drones are evidence of an advanced alien civilization visiting Earth.
Wow.
They point to the, unusual flight patterns, their ability to evade detection, and the lack of any clear explanation from authorities
Yeah.
as proof of their extraterrestrial origins.
I mean, it's a fun thought experiment,
Sure.
but is anyone actually taking this alien theory seriously?
While there are certainly individuals who believe in it wholeheartedly, it's not a theory that has any real support within, the scientific community.
Okay.
Most experts agree that there's no concrete evidence to suggest these drones are of extraterrestrial origin.
Right. Okay. So aliens are probably off the table.
Probably.
What about something a little more down to earth, but still pretty out there, like a secret government project that's gone rogue?
Mm.
Maybe some kind of experimental technology being tested without, public knowledge or consent.
Ah, the classic government conspiracy theory.
Right.
That one always seems to crop up whenever something unexplained happens. And to be fair, there is a historical basis for some of this skepticism. Governments have been known to conduct, classified experiments and operations without full transparency.
So it's not entirely implausible that these drones could be part of some, top secret program.
It's possible, but again, we have to rely on evidence, not just speculation. And so far, there's nothing concrete linking these drones to any known government program. Plus, governments tend to be very cautious about conducting operations that could, expose their secrets or cause widespread panic.
Right. They don't want to risk blowing their cover or creating mass hysteria.
Exactly.
So we've gone from foreign spies to copycat drone enthusiasts to aliens and secret government experiments. It's quite a spectrum of possibilities.
It is, and that reflects the uncertainty that we're all feeling. We're we're grappling with a new kind of phenomenon here,
Hmm.
one that doesn't fit neatly into our existing, categories of threats and explanations.
So where do we go from here? Like, how do we even begin to make sense of this? Is there any one theory that seems more likely than the others?
Honestly, it's still too early to say with any certainty. The investigation is ongoing, and until we have more information, any definitive conclusion would be premature. But I think it's safe to say that the most likely explanation, at least based on what we know so far, is that these drones represent, a convergence of factors, a mix of motives and operators.
So it's not a single answer.
Right.
It's a combination of different things, maybe all happening at the same time.
Exactly. It's probably a mix of, legitimate drone operations, whether it's for commercial research or government purposes,
Hmm.
with some unauthorized or even illicit activities sprinkled in.
Right.
And within that mix, you have individuals or groups with, varying levels of skill, sophistication, and intent,
Yeah.
which makes it even harder to untangle the whole mess.
It's like a big, messy puzzle with pieces from different boxes.
A perfect analogy. And
Yeah.
that's what makes this so challenging, both for investigators and for the public trying to understand what's going on.
So what does all this mean for us, the average folks who are just trying to go about our lives and not get spooked by unidentified flying objects?
Right.
Should we be worried?
That's a natural question to ask. And while it's easy to get, caught up in the speculation and the what ifs, it's important to remember that so far these drone flights haven't caused any direct harm
Right.
or disruption to public safety.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Right.
But still, seeing these things flying around, especially at night, it is unsettling.
Uh-huh.
And the lack of answers is only making it worse.
Right.
What can we do to feel safer and maybe more informed about what's happening, above our heads?
Well, first, stay informed, but be discerning about your sources.
Okay.
There's a lot of misinformation and sensationalism out there, especially on social media. Stick to credible news sources. Avoid getting swept up in conspiracy theories that might just, amplify your anxieties
Right.
without offering any real solutions.
Solid advice.
Yeah.
What else?
Be aware of your surroundings and report anything unusual to the authorities. If you see a drone flying suspiciously, especially, near sensitive locations or in a way that seems reckless or dangerous,
Yeah.
contact your local law enforcement agency or the FBI. They're relying on public tips to gather information and piece together the bigger picture.
Okay. Report suspicious activity.
Yeah.
Got it. What about the whole issue of regulations and counter-drone technology? Is anything being done to prevent these incidents from happening in the future?
Yes, this is a key area of focus for both lawmakers and technology developers.
Okay.
On the regulatory front, there are ongoing efforts to strengthen drone laws,
Fine.
including stricter registration requirements, licensing procedures, and limitations on where and when drones can be flown. The aim is to strike a balance between, fostering innovation in the drone industry, which has huge potential for various sectors, and ensuring, public safety and security.
So more rules, more oversight, but not stifling the technology completely.
Exactly. It's about responsible innovation
Yeah.
and responsible use.
Uh-huh.
And on the technology front, there's been significant investment in developing counter-drone systems which can detect, track, and even neutralize unauthorized drones.
Neutralize. So like shooting them down?
Not necessarily. There are various methods, from jamming their signals to taking control of their systems and forcing them to land.
Yeah.
The choice of method really depends on the situation, the type of drone, and the potential risks involved.
So it's like an arms race, but with drones instead of missiles.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
But the aim isn't to create like a sky full of warring drones.
Right.
It's to develop effective deterrents and
Uh-huh.
safeguards that can protect critical infrastructure, ensure public safety, and maintain order in our increasingly crowded airspace.
Okay, so we're in this weird, like, in-between phase where the technology is outpacing our ability to control it.
Mm.
And we're scrambling to catch up.
Well,
Feels
yeah.
like with every answer we uncover, like 10 more questions pop up.
That's a very astute observation, and
Yeah.
it's not just about drones. It's a broader trend that we're seeing with emerging technologies, from artificial intelligence to genetic engineering. The pace of innovation is accelerating, and society, including our legal systems and ethical frameworks, is struggling to keep up. But I think these drone sightings, as unsettling as they are, they're actually a valuable opportunity.
An opportunity. How so?
They're forcing us to confront these challenges head on, to have these difficult conversations about the role of technology in our lives, the balance between innovation and security, the need for transparency and accountability.
Mm.
They're a wake-up call,
Huh.
a reminder that we can't just sit back and let the future happen to us. We have to actively shape it.
Okay, so maybe a little bit of paranoia isn't such a bad thing
Mm.
if it gets us thinking critically about these issues.
Mhm. Exactly. A healthy dose of skepticism combined with, a willingness to learn and adapt is essential in navigating this rapidly changing world.
With all this talk about drones and the future of technology, is there anything specific you think our listeners should be paying attention to? Any trends or developments that might be, flying under the radar, so to speak?
Well, you mentioned AI earlier, and that seems to be popping up everywhere these days.
Yeah.
So how does that factor into the whole drone situation?
Well, that's where things get really interesting
Hmm.
and potentially concerning. We're seeing this convergence of drone technology with artificial intelligence,
Right.
and that creates a whole new category of capabilities.
AI-powered drones. What
Mhm.
exactly does that, I mean, what does that even mean? Are we talking about drones that can basically think for themselves?
In essence, yes.
Okay.
Imagine a drone that can not only fly and collect data,
Right.
but can also process that data in real time,
Hmm.
make decisions based on that analysis, and even adjust its mission objectives
Whoa.
without direct human input.
So it's not just a remote control device anymore.
Huh?
It's like a flying robot with a brain of its own.
Yeah,
That's both amazing and kind of terrifying, isn't it?
it is. And like any powerful technology, it has the potential for both good and bad. On the one hand, AI-powered drones could be incredibly beneficial for
Yeah.
things like search and rescue operations, environmental monitoring, even delivering goods to remote areas.
Right.
But there's also, a darker side to consider.
Like what
Mm.
what kind of risks are we talking about?
Well, think about the potential for misuse
Okay.
by individuals or groups with malicious intent.
Uh-huh.
Imagine a drone that can autonomously identify and track a target,
Mm-hmm.
decide when and where to strike, and even evade attempts to disable it or intercept it.
Okay, now that's straight out of like a sci-fi thriller. We're not quite there yet, are we? Not quite. But the technology is advancing rapidly, and that's why it's so important to have these conversations now before it's too late. We need to establish clear ethical guidelines, safety protocols, accountability mechanisms for the development and deployment of these AI-powered drones.
So it's not just about regulating the drones themselves.
Yeah.
It's also about regulating the AI that's controlling them.
Exactly.
We're entering a whole new world of technological and ethical challenges.
Precisely. And that's why these mystery drones, regardless of who's behind them, are so significant. They're a glimpse into the future, a taste of what's to come.
Yeah.
And they're forcing us to confront these questions head on.
It's like we've stumbled into a real life science fiction story.
Yeah.
And we're still figuring out the plot.
I like that analogy. And just like in a good story, there are twists and turns, unexpected revelations,
Right.
and ultimately choices to be made. Right. The choices we make now as individuals and as a society, they will determine how this story unfolds.
It all feels very big, almost overwhelming.
Yeah.
What can we as individuals do to even make sense of all this
Mm.
and maybe even have some influence on how it all plays out?
Well, first and foremost, stay informed. Educate yourself about these technologies, the potential benefits and the risks,
Hmm.
the ethical considerations. Don't just rely on headlines or social media posts.
Yeah.
Dig a little deeper. Read articles. Listen to podcasts. Like this one. Have conversations with people who have different perspectives.
So knowledge is power, as they say.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Engage in the conversation. Talk to your friends, family, colleagues about these issues.
Right.
Contact your elected officials and let them know your concerns. Support organizations that are working on responsible AI development and drone regulation.
Uh-huh.
The more voices we have in this conversation, the better.
That's a good point. It's easy to feel powerless in the face of all this.
Yeah.
But we do have a voice, and we can use it to shape the future.
Absolutely. And remember, this isn't just about drones or AI. It's about how we as humans navigate a world where where technology is evolving faster than ever before. It's about finding that right balance between innovation and caution,
Hmm.
between progress and responsibility.
It feels like we're all kind of making this up as we go along, doesn't it?
In a way, yes, but that's also what makes it so exciting. We have the opportunity to shape the future, to define what it means to be human in a technological age.
Well, you've definitely given me a lot to think about. I started this deep dive, curious about some strange lights in the sky,
Right.
and now I'm contemplating the future of humanity. That's quite a journey.
And it's a journey that's just beginning. As we continue to explore the mysteries of these drones, we're also exploring the mysteries of ourselves. Our relationship with technology and our place in the universe.
And who knows what other mysteries are waiting to be discovered out there.
Right.
Maybe next week's deep dive will shed some light on that.
I look forward to finding out. Thanks for joining us on this exploration.
That's the deep dive for today. We'll be back next week with another deep dive into a topic that's sure to spark your curiosity. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.